Well, my next guest, who joins me in studio this afternoon, has been living with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, for the past 7 years, and now her 9-year-old daughter was also recently diagnosed with the same illness. Sarah, you're very welcome to Lunchtime Live. For listeners who aren't familiar, just what is ME?
Afternoon, Andrea. ME, otherwise known as myalgic encephalomyelitis, bit of a mouthful, and also kind of called more recently chronic fatigue syndrome. It's a multi-system condition. It's classified by the World Health Organization as a neurological condition, but it's kind of, I suppose, comes with a range of symptoms. People will kind of know it if they've heard of it as the kind of classic fatigue, being the I suppose the strongest kind of symptom.
Mm. And how did you, how did you know you had it, or what were the...
Yeah, so I got the winter vomiting bug over Christmas 2012, and then it just never seemed to kind of recover fully. In February, I then got a really nasty throat infection, and I just found myself going back and forth to the doctor, to the GP, kind of, just wasn't feeling myself, wasn't recovering properly, continued kind of sore throats, exhaustion, weakness, couldn't focus. And then they told me I had something called post-viral fatigue syndrome. And then once it progressed a little bit longer, at the year mark, they diagnosed me with ME.
And what were the day-to-day symptoms? Like, it sounds by all accounts, Sarah, you sort of went from one illness nearly into the other, or one viral infection into the other.
Yeah, so I suppose day to day I kind of describe it as feeling like you've the flu mixed with like a bad hangover.
Right.
So, the kind of the worst symptom is just this profound fatigue. I mean, fatigue is kind of a bad word for it. You almost feel like you're, I suppose, walking through mud, just real heavy limbs. But it is that kind of way you feel when you've the flu. You've kind of achy muscles, headaches, nausea, sore throats that come and go. And then other kind of cognitive symptoms where you just have real problems focusing. They call it kind of brain fog, where you just can't remember the right word, memory issues, that kind of thing.
And was it exacerbated during the COVID period, or was it a little bit easier because everything kind of slowed down for everybody, or...?
Yeah, it was definitely handy having my husband at home, but I would say it was definitely exacerbated because having a 6-year-old, my son, in the house, when you're resting, you really need a good quality of rest, and having someone kind of pop in and out to you, and fights between the kids, and obviously stress. I mean, stress is a big issue for any chronic illness, so doesn't help, I suppose.
What's the support level like for this?
Atrocious, if I'm honest, Andrea.
Right.
So,
in what way, like?
Okay, so doctors aren't given any training in Ireland about ME at all. Some doctors internationally, if you're lucky, might have had a 1-hour lecture at some point in their studies. So there are a total of, I believe, 3 doctors in the entire country who
specialise in...
I wouldn't even call it specialising. They've taken an interest in it. So 2 of those are GPs, and one of them is a consultant in Dublin, and I'm lucky enough to see him.
And what's it like, that lack of services? I mean, does that, or as you say, kind of a lack of support that you described as atrocious, do you feel that you aren't believed?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for decades they talk about this illness having atrociously bad PR. It got into people's heads that this was a psychological or a psychosomatic issue, and we've had to battle for everything since then. So yeah, I definitely think either people don't believe in it, or if they've heard of it, they think, oh, that's just that thing where you're a bit tired. And it's obviously so much more than that.
Is that what the general perception of this is? And I don't mean this in an ignorant way to you, Sarah, but is there a perception that people would just say, she's tired all the time? Like, is that a kind of, do you feel that that's how people think sometimes?
Yeah, I do. I mean, part of it is that, I suppose, invisible illness piece where, when you go out and about, you're well enough to be out at that stage. So people look at you and they think, oh, well, she looks normal, she looks healthy. But definitely I think there's been just a total lack of awareness about ME as a condition, and people know very little about it.